people, show you got heart. Now we're playing the game and we're totally scoring, learning how to make or break your world of business boring, showing up every morning, ready for the show. I'ma get ready. Gold engaging virtual meetings 2.0.
All right. Well, happy, Wednesday. Yeah, this is August 6th here on the Engaging Virtual Meeting Podcast. I'm your host, John Chen, CSP. And if you are watching this on social media, make sure and subscribe, share, like, or comment. If you comment during the live show, we'll give you a shout out, like my good friend Celeste Combs yesterday. I just got called to Portland, and I'm going to a conference. It's called PDXYZ, and there should be some top talent there. I think we're hitting the comedy show. I'll get the name. I have the comedian off the top of my head, but it's someone I think that you know. Anyways, going to see some top brands, some top people, and other things coming up in Portland. Hey, if you want all the episodes, make sure and go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online. Subscribe on one of your 15 plus different places that you get podcast. Apple Podcast, still the #1 place to get the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. And if you want to learn how to be more engaging, come to the Engaging Conference, October 28th through the 30th. You can get a free ticket here, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON, or upgrade, get the VIP, or better yet, come here in Seattle. Every speaker will get at least 5 minutes on the stage with expert coaching. You get the video back. That's usually worth it alone for most of my speaker friends. Now, this next gentleman, I got a chance to have dinner with in Arizona. He's a very good friend of Terry Brock and Gina Carr, which means, he's on the AI side. This guy's a designer, writer, and speaker. He spent the past decade exploring his culture and business in profound and revolutionary ways. His motto is to live inspired, and everyone he connects with leaves provoked, challenged, and liberated. Plus, I got one of the card games that him and his daughter worked on. Please, let's welcome the one and only David Litwin. David, what's going on?
Hey, John. How are you? Hey, everybody.
Genius. So, David, actually, you should talk about this card game. I love the story and the creation of this card game, right? I think it was with your daughter, right?
It was, yeah. So my daughter was 13 years old, and she kind of had this idea. We were playing the game Boggle for Christmas. And she said to me, hey, can we play a Christmas version of Boggle? And I said, well, what is that? And so she kind of came up with this idea, and then we had a blast. We played for about an hour, and it was super fun. And so I went to my in-laws' house the next day, and we started kind of playing this sort of Christmas game. And I said, well, that's not enough. I can't play for Christmas all day. So we started inventing these different categories. And then as we were playing it, it's very much like Boggle, where you kind of scratch out different names as you're going. Everybody kept saying, scratch that. And as a brand developer and as a designer, I'm like, there it is. That's absolutely what we're going to call this thing. So went home that night. This was Christmas Day, so the 26th, created the entire game for my daughter, had all the illustrations done in about 5 days. And I told her, I said, look, if you're willing to do this, we'll produce it. So you can get it at scratchthat-thegame.com.
Oh.
And she was 13 years old when she designed this game. And what I love about this game is that I call it Cards for Humanity instead of Cards Against Humanity, because you don't have to take a shower after you're done playing it.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you're like 6 or 70. Your personality comes out in this. It's played with cards, but it's very much a social thinking, engaging, interactive game. And so I love it. It's just been a blast. And I actually have a picture up on the website, and there are like 17 people in the shot, maybe 12 people. I'll say 12. 12 people in the shot. It was at a game store in Arizona. And they just came up and said, hey, what are you guys playing? And so I gave them a couple copies of it, and they started playing. And every single person in the shot has a smile on their face.
Oh,
like, how can you do that? Like 12 people all just laughing and smiling. It was just amazing. So we didn't script it. We didn't tell them, hey, put a smile on your face. We just randomly shot the shot when they were playing. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring it. My birthday party is August 30th. So, David, I want to let you know that we're going to attempt to play it at least once. And actually, now I'm going to inspired to bring it to, I'm going to National Speakers Association Oregon's picnic, and I will attempt to test your Scratch That game there. Meanwhile,
I love
it. A lot of my friends didn't get to have dinner with you, David. So why don't you take a moment to share who you are and what you do in the world?
Sure, absolutely. So I am David W. Litwin, how I go by. I am an author, speaker. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I do a heck of a lot of things during the day. I have basically created an agency from about 25 years ago called Pure Fusion Media, which is what I would consider, if anybody wants to call it your bread and butter, it's what I do from 9 to 5 in the midst of creating a fitness product, writing 6 books, writing on Medium, having a podcast. So, that's just a few of the little things, creating an exercise product. I believe that basically if we devote our time to from 4 o'clock in the morning till 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you get more done than you will ever do all day because the phones are clear. Even my clients in New York aren't up yet, and so I just go. And one of the things that I talk about too is that I'm in the flow all day. And people kind of talk about trying to get into flow states, right? That's a big thing, especially for anyone in business or creatives. I'm in flow all day, and the reason I'm in flow all day is I figured out 2 main things: why I'm here and what I'm good at, or what I'm called to do from that perspective. And I just did that this is real simple. It sounds esoteric, but I just went through the personality profile things. I went through DISC, I went through Myers-Briggs, I went through the ONET, and I figured out, oh, this is how I'm genetically wired. This is what I'm best at. And now I just operate in those things, and I'm happy all day long, and I'm in flow all day long. So, it allows me to do things faster and quicker than most people can ever do because I'm moving in it.
Genius, David. Yeah, I have read the book Flow too, where some of that premier research came around, and a flow state is something. I was actually we were just at NSA Influence, and I don't know if you have this distinction, David, but for me, how you experience events lets you know if you're in flow state or not. So, right, we know boring events move slow,
Right.
right? Great events move fast, like it goes in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
But really outstanding events do both. They feel like they're over in a blink of an eye. And if you sit there and think about it, you're like, how did I do so much in this so little time?
Yeah. That's
So,
a really good point. I think a lot of times it's in the pre-planning.
yeah,
It's not just the execution, but it's in making sure that you have done everything possible to make that event go so seamlessly that everybody it just flows on them, right? Like you're literally not counting the minutes, or you're not going, okay, what's happening next? I live, you were here last week, and I've lived in San Jose and I've lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and both places, all the streets, like if you look at it, it's just a hodgepodge and circles everywhere, and it's just nuts. Arizona is like line after line, concentric line, perfectly laid out. And so when I get to, let's say I'm 20 minutes away from my house, that last 20 minutes from my house just flows by every single day because I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly what's happening, and my brain just shuts off, right?
oh,
So I love that about this city is you can never get lost in the city because it's so set up, in such an orderly fashion that it just allows you to, in the same way of pre-planning an event, once you eliminate all those problems, all those circles and all those, dead ends, so to speak,
yeah, yeah.
it just becomes something for everybody. And I think that really ties into the care and value you have for your people, the empathy you have for your people over just collecting the paycheck or collecting the revenue from the event. I always say for my company, Pure Fusion Media, I'm never about the job, I'm about the referral. And so if I'm about the job, I'm about collecting the money, getting on to the next project. If I'm about the referral, it's about everything that happens in the process of working with me
Yeah.
that leads them to state the next thing and say, hey, I want to work with them again, and I want to tell other people about them. And so I call that, in my book, Creative Success, controlling the narrative.
Yeah, I think in influence, one of the things was in that pre-planning is I've been there enough now. 2 things happen. One is things get scheduled. I've been asked to do things, at different parts. And actually, for me, it's actually more fun to be running the show than to be watching the show. Right? I'm
Right.
a producer, right? That's part of what I do in my life. And the second one is now I've made so many relationships, David. Like I used to see it years. Now I'm that person, which is it takes you an hour to walk anywhere during this conference because you bump into so many people that you know. And so, you're in a constant state of connection and flow and other things. Speaking of connection and flow, right? I got your website up here. Why don't you
Sure.
talk a little bit about Pure Fusion Media and a little bit like the philosophy behind the design. And you also told me that this product that we're seeing here was like the last that you did not use AI. I would love to talk a little bit later about how you use AI in design. So let's go
Sure.
through this product if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, let's start with Pure Fusion Media. So Pure Fusion Media has been around for 25 years. In 2019, I realized that we've worked with every brand, Sony, Hewlett Packard, IBM, Sun Microsystems, Pacific Bell, in my history of being a designer. But I realized in 2019, what we were really, really good at was product packaging, based on everything that was kind of synergistically tied to my company. So we call ourselves the Quentin Tarantino of the product package design world, right? There's 35% of the rules you can't break. It's all regulated, but we shatter the other 65% every time.
Ooh.
So I'm very story driven when it comes to the design that we create. I believe ultimately that basically it's not about like just communicating a message. It's about creating an environment visually that people get drawn to. I say you turn customers into brand ambassadors, right? That's why Tom's did what it did in the world. That's why, certain companies out there, we know them not from necessarily their products or their logo. We know them from the experience that people have with that company. Fuzi was kind of fun because it's actually a Amanita gummy, so psychedelic mushrooms project, and I wanted to, and I'm always more than just, hey, let's create the logo, let's create the packaging. So I came up with the whole concept of blow your mind, right? Which is kind of what's happening there. So we created a nuclear explosion out of each of the fruits on the design was sort of the idea. You've got this kind of like, atomic bomb shot of what you're going to experience when you take this product.
And oh my gosh, so here's all the different flavors then, right? So
Yeah, that one, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, so that was one of the last, I use AI. I started in AI in 2000 and obviously 23, end of 23. I was about 3 weeks into ChatGPT when it first launched. So in technical terms, that's decades. But I was in at least in the first, I was in before the news agencies were in, let's put it that way, right? They were talking about it 3 or 4 months later. And so I started the first week I used it, I saved 30 hours of time, not as a designer, but just in all the other projects I was working on. So I wrote about it, got picked up in Business Insider. That led me to kind of launch a career on Medium, became one of the top writers on AI on Medium. And about 4 months later, I discovered Midjourney. Now I discovered Midjourney, luckily when Midjourney got good, because all those platforms at the time were horrible. And, it took a little while for them to get good. So I got to most of them right as they were really starting to look more realistic. And then I sought after photorealism as my focus because I'm very much fashion, basically work with a lot of fashion brands.
yes.
So I'm like, well, if it doesn't look real, it's not going to work. So I created 2 Udemy courses on AI fashion realism, which had over 1,000 students.
Woo.
Yeah. So that was fun. So, and that's one of the things about excellence, right? I did it right the first time. A lot of times people get into something and they tend to go, well, I'll work it out as I go. But if you do it right the first time, I call it building compounding excellence, right? It only takes 1 or 2 people to like something to then produce it to 4 or 5 more people to produce it to then that 5 till 5 more. Now you're at 25. And it just grows up and compounds as you do something with excellence. So I know, we're working now and we're kind of trying to become the premier, and I am the premier AI fashion company online, but that doesn't necessarily mean huge numbers yet as far as revenue, but we're getting there. And so I know that it only takes 2 or 3 great products that we work with, great brands that we work with, and all of a sudden we're going to be, huge. So.
What's an example of AI fashion? Are you talking about a piece of clothing that you're designing?
Yeah, so if you go to detailmodels.com, if you want to pull that up, this is my online, basically, it's a fashion design company or a modeling agency. So what I did is I said, okay, well, Pure Fusion Media is going to create this service where we have, so all of this that you see here is these are all AI characters, meticulously honed and refined. And you can basically hire our models for your photo shoot. So one of the things that I talk about is, look, I'm not trying to take money away from the fashion industry or the photographers or anything like that. I'm building access to smaller brands that have amazing products out there that don't get the opportunity to share them with the world in a way that's nothing more than either they took some shots with some friends, or maybe they just have some lay flat images on their site and that's all that they have. So if you look right there, what you're looking at right there, all we had to work with were those logos that were at the top of the screen, and everything that's created below that was all created with, creating AI, using AI modeling, and producing all these images. So now he has his entire line. He can pre-sell the entire line of products. And, that's another example where all we had were those dresses and we created the entire photo shoot for the campaign.
Okay. How big are your prompts to get these type of images?
Yeah, so the trick, actually, I discovered the best trick is, and I was just actually doing some research right now on, even improving it and kind of structuring it and streamlining it. The best way to create prompts is to go into ChatGPT and start with some sort of like, prompting, not prompting, but some sort of like inspirational image,
Okay.
and then have ChatGPT write the entire prompt for you. Then strip out the image and put the prompt in and see what see what it comes up with. So basically, we don't know. I mean, we know lighting. I mean, I know photography, so I know how to create the right thing. But as far as all the intricate details that ChatGPT knows over what we're going to get, it's far better to use ChatGPT to create the prompt and then bring that into whatever image or video generator you're using.
Well, phenomenal stuff on this website, and that photorealism is something, right? Again, AI is just new enough that people are scratching the surface and breaking ground on what is viable work. And I actually showed David my AI video where I was like purposely trying to make mistakes because it's a comedy video. And so there's some ridiculous things. That was one of my conclusions. But one of my conclusions says for me, it wasn't quite ready for prime time for what we were trying to do. And you can do things on no budget or very little budget if you start working with these tools. And then again, if you start specializing in something like this is what you're going to pay to, is somebody the expertise, right? While anybody has access to AI, there's of course now the people who can actually harness the tool to do great things with it. And some of this stuff, again, this is very difficult to tell on a lot of your images that, these are AI models, right?
Right. And that's what you're actually looking at there is our virtual try-on service. So if you scroll up a little bit on the page, you're going to see right there in that video, if you play that video.
Thanks to detail, I can see how any outfit looks directly on my body, my skin tone, and my personality. I just send them the garment page links from any and every website online, and a few photos of myself.
So we basically created a way for people to, and there are automated systems for this, which really ties into what kind of you're saying. There are a lot of new platforms springing up saying, hey, do you have a brand? Now you can, in 5 minutes, you can take your chewing gum, or let's say lighting, lamp company, right? And you can produce an ad for your lamp company.
Yeah.
What's true, you can. But your quality, it's commoditized, right? They don't know the right lighting angles, the right, prompting structure to say, so they're going to get generic looking content. We are much more high touch, but we have 25 years of experience in it and, tens of thousands of hours in the AI world. So it's like, I think personally, the cream is going to rise to the top, and some of these smaller people who say, hey, you can do it yourself. It's not going to work. It'll work for a little while, but eventually it's going to be the same thing. It's the agencies will take over and they'll be bigger. So, and I don't even understand why most modeling agencies don't have an AI division already. Because think about, they can basically go to those smaller companies like I'm going to and say, hey, we can produce this content for you faster, better, quicker, cheaper.
Yeah.
It's not my world. Nobody was doing it, so I did.
Well, David, let's talk about too. We talked about engagement is the theme of this podcast, right? What is it that you think that engages people around product packaging and product marketing? What are some of your theories or guidelines that you personally have?
Yeah, so story is important, right? Mm-hmm. How do you communicate that story on that product in a way that resonates with the customer and they pick it up? We know in the trade show world, and I was in the trade show world for about 4 years, that you have about 3 seconds at a show for somebody to look at your booth and want to engage you, right?
Right.
And I think that basically we have to move from just dynamic visuals, which draws them in initially, but they buy because they feel something resonates inside them with what they see on that product packaging. The other thing is I'm big on like color and vibrancy and that kind of thing. Like I'm not into I was talking to a friend of mine about this a couple days ago, and he's like, he sent me an article on how color's being taken away from media. And if you watch a lot of movies, especially on Netflix, you're going to find that there's a very dark tone to them. And I said, absolutely. I said, I've noticed that as well, is that we're removing life out of things. So I try to bring life back into whatever I'm working on from that particular, I don't subscribe to the idea that life needs to be boring and morose and all of that. So, to add that excitement, add that vibrancy. I mean, my motto is live inspired. So I want people to be inspired by whatever product package it is.
Yeah, I think, Apple proved that when you take something like a computer that was used to being gray and just offering it in 5 colors opened up a whole new segment, market, product packaging, and all sorts of things. Microsoft eventually got it, but they were very slow. That was not their forte, when they were around that. Well, David, take me back to March of 2020. So you're a product creator. I'm just curious, you do have a shot of maybe you do a lot of your work remote or with, clients that are far away. What happened for you in March of 2020 and how did you deal with it?
So I had basically, when COVID hit, I had already started my virtual agency. I started it probably in October, so just a little bit before. And ironically, actually, my daughter in November had the symptoms of COVID. And one of the reasons why I knew it was she came home and she's like, I can't taste anything. I can't taste any of this food. Like, what's going on? It tastes like paper. I'm like, well, that's weird. So I kind of tried to research it. And then like 2 months later, everybody's like COVID. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my daughter had it like, a month before. Basically, for us, it was the idea that I didn't want this is how I told my clients, and this is how I positioned it. I said, look, if I have an office with 11 employees, you're getting the best work out of a geographic radius of about 50 miles. If I have a virtual office, you're getting the best work of a geographic radius of the entire United States. Yeah. Which do you prefer? And not only that, but you're going to be paying for my overhead. You're going to be paying for my lighting. You're going to be paying for, all of those different things. So I was like, I shifted and I was just like, we're just going to build a virtual model. So it ended up working out great, but positioning it, and I think that's the key to anything, is knowing how to language it, right? So by languaging in that way, because people could have said, well, maybe you're not big enough because you don't have an office. I'm like, well, maybe you're not thinking deep enough because you don't recognize that now you've got creativity from across the entire country.
Yes.
So, I might get the best person in Seattle. I might get the best person in Nashville. I have the best person here. But if I had everybody within, let's say I'm in Nashville, if I had everybody within, Murfreesboro and Franklin, it's not the best. It's just the best in an area. Even if I had the best, is it really going to guarantee that I've got that level of quality? So, and it just worked out very, very well. So we absolutely shot. Plus going into CPG when everything was now about going to Amazon and, buying products that way, we absolutely accelerated. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't suffer in any way.
Yeah, so it was a good time. So how did you manage your virtual meetings? So you're saying your team was virtual now, right?
Right.
Yeah. How do you manage? A lot of people still ask, how do you manage a virtual team when, of course, you're not with them, can't oversee them, blah, blah, blah. I'm just curious.
So basically, you have, I love Zoom. Zoom for me is my go-to for everything from that perspective. But I will tell you this, like you have Basecamp, you have, lots of different programs that you can use for project management.
Yeah.
As ridiculous as this is, I use a single Word doc and it is color coded and it allows me, and I've used it for the last 10 years, and it allows me to stay connected to my clients. I won't tell you exactly what's on it, but basically, or to stay connected to my designers in a way where they know exactly what to do at any given moment. So it doesn't have to be that detailed. I do like, in fact, actually in 2003, I wanted to create one of the first base camps strictly for graphic designers. Hadn't
Yeah.
even come out yet. So I was thinking project management tools back then, which was going to be horribly antiquated. But that was my vision, because we do, there's certain things about the design world that are so much more, that are critical to the customer, that don't exist in a lot of these project management platforms. And one of those is, and I think that this is always important. What are your conditions of satisfaction for a successful project? And I don't mean, well, I just want 25% revenue increase, right? That can be a standard that somebody has, but we get it down to get really granular and say, I want my boss in the next 3 weeks to come up to me and say, great job on that project.
Yeah.
And so we know if we outline those conditions of satisfaction and we hit those metrics,
Yes.
we're going to have a client for life.
Yes.
So that's kind of how we work from that perspective. So from the virtual side of things, it's pretty basic. I tend to use Zoom and get everybody involved kind of twice a week, and then with a general conversation, and then everybody's on whenever they need to be in the process. And then we're always looking at each other's work. I do find that I do a lot of work with my clients on that virtual space, so they can work in real time with me, which saves probably 20% of any project time. And they love it.
Yes.
Because they can see, and to be honest with you, it shows them how creative I am when I'm answering and finishing their questions before they finish asking them.
Right.
I've got one client, he's got an energy bar company called E-Bars, and I know him so well that as he starts a sentence, I've already done what he's asking for by the end of the sentence. So,
It's a key get me factor. Like, again, what I tell clients too is, like, the first event is always going to be the hardest, but if you stick around for 4, 5, 6 events, all right, I get to know you. I know exactly what you want, and then I can predict what you need to have happen for what's coming up. And some clients get that, some don't.
Yeah, no, I say finish each other. I say, give me a couple weeks with you, and I'll start finishing your sentences.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And that's
it
the
works.
predictive model that goes in with it. So, on the virtual meetings, let's say you're attending somebody else's virtual meeting, David, what has to happen for you to be totally engaged in that meeting?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that one of the things that I really like is I'll give you an example of you, John. So when you were on with Stark Raving Entrepreneurs, you addressed every person by their first name as you talked to them, and you probably said it at least 3 or 4 times. That to me was absolutely huge, because it shows the empathy, it shows you care, it shows, even if you're going over here and looking at their name as you're saying it, they feel connected to you in that process. And I think that that's important, is to create that personalization out of a disconnected medium, right? We are disconnected from that perspective. So creating that empathy, creating those spaces where people feel comfortable, I think is important. And the other thing too is I like when people both tell a story at the beginning of when they're talking. And so you feel connected to that story, kind of like we do when we're speakers, right?
Yeah.
We start with something like that personal. And then, also being able to come in and engage the people that you're talking to quickly, right? So get them involved, so it's not just a talking head moment. And, ultimately, a lot of times, this is what I do when I meet somebody just in person. I never just say, hey, this is John, this is Steve. I say, let me tell you something about John. And then I say, let me tell you something about Steve. And I build those connection points between those two people immediately, and they become friends before they've ever been introduced or shake hands. Right? Because they know that I value them, therefore there's a value there. They feel incredibly, congruent with me, and then they become closer friends themselves. So.
Yeah, I love that. That's just networking 101 for me, is when I'm walking around like that and you purposely put 2 people together, like, David, you got to meet this person, right?
Right.
Something now that I know about you, David, that is connected, like, they work at Wizards of the Coast and your daughter just made a card game, or, something like that. And just making that connection. And one of the parts too around networking too is you connect those 2 people together and then you can leave.
Right. Right.
Can you- I,
Exactly.
I got something else to do, or I got more people to introduce, and I
Right.
think that's really key. Let me just check too, David. Have you heard of Google's Project Aristotle?
No, I've not.
Oh, you gotta. I'm gonna put you down the rabbit hole, David.
Okay.
Okay. So, and again, this use of names, by the way, if people aren't noticing, it's something top in what we teach is address people from their names. Zoom gives you like the name card here, so use it. And the best part, David, I actually said, when people are multitasking, let's say David like tunes out or something. One of the top tips that I give people back is to say his name, but don't actually call him out, right? Like something, it would sound something like this. So David, just tune out, like look out into space, right? And so, one of the greatest things in this conversation is that David said something great about mushrooms about 20 minutes ago, and I know he's going to give something else later. So I never called on you, but as soon as you hear your name, you're like, what?
Of course.
Okay,
Exactly.
going back to this part, Project Aristotle is Google's research. They did 18 months of paramount research of what did their high performing teams have in common, right? And I'm a team builder, so this is why I glommed onto this research. It's some of the best in the last decade around team building. And what they found was that teams are wildly different, right? There are teams that are structured, they have milestones, they make their points, they ship on time.
Right.
Then there's these other teams that are wild, they're crazy, they crash, they look like they're going to ship nothing, and they ship a miracle in the end. And that's also a high performing team. And
Right.
so you're saying, what do these two, wildly different teams have in common? And then it's like, is it the pay? Is it the leader, the structure of the team, the building they put them, the equipment they give them? And it's none of those. Right? There's 5 factors, but the number one is psychological safety. Defined as I feel safe taking a risk in front of my team.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I create. So when you see me presenting, what I tell people later is that that's the invisible thing I'm building in this box, the psychological safety, so that you feel safe interacting or contributing or taking a risk. Every time you talk or chat, you kind of take a risk because somebody like Terry Brock could say, "God, that's stupid," although he would never do that.
Right. Right.
But when you take a risk and you find that the meeting gets better, right? Or you learn more, or everyone else learns more because you contributed, then you're like, oh, I can do that again. I'm going to do that again. This is a great meeting. And so, anyways, I think you'll love that part, and I think it will do something for you, your clients, and your business if you take a peek at this research.
I will. I will. You actually brought up a good point for me, which is my leadership style is not to dominate and to control the situation as soon as I get in, although I know I can.
Yeah.
My leadership style, so let's say we're at a conference and we have a breakout session of 12 people, and they say, we need a leader, we're doing something like this, right? I will assess in that first 5 minutes if there's someone who can take over and dominate the situation, or who can lead effectively in the moment. If they do, I will become their wingman.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
I
will
like
do
that.
everything I can to support them in this process. If no one can pull that off, then I'll lead. But the other thing that I always do is, especially, and this happens a lot in Zoom meetings, if it gets quiet, I'll always speak up. And I'm in a group called Right Build Scale out of Europe right now. It's a mastermind for people on Substack. And I started off doing that exact same thing. And there were maybe 1 or 2 people that were kind of engaging in the process. They felt safe. But because I did that, and because I would talk about somebody else in the process, there's like 20 now that all just, yeah, exactly. They're just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. And I don't have to say anything. I talked maybe once or twice in a conversation where I was talking 5 to 6 times before. I don't mind putting myself out there and even looking like, well, he's doing a lot of talking. I know when to pull back, but I
Yes.
also know that if I put myself out there a little bit more, other people that aren't insecure will start speaking up. And I always say it this way. I always say that 2 things. One, that I don't mind being cut because I'll heal faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
So if you come at me, that's fine. It doesn't have a problem. I'm going to heal faster. And the other thing that I always say is that I use words like a scalpel so that you don't even realize you were cut until you're already starting to heal.
You need a little Wolverine in you. You know the Wolverine where like he
Oh,
gets
yeah.
damaged and he heals quickly.
Exactly,
That could be your new
exactly.
nickname
Yes.
is Wolverine.
Yep.
Oh, that's genius. Let me ask one more question too, David. So you are seeing the future already of AI in your practice every day. What do you see in the next 5 to 10 years for you and your company and your clients?
It's another good question, because AI leads us down a rabbit hole that sometimes you want to go down and sometimes you don't want to go down, right?
Yeah.
I see people are, let's put it this way. I see AI expanding and growing, and I see those people getting bitter, getting more and more bitter in the process, and basically losing their jobs and then getting even more bitter because they didn't learn AI. Right? The issue is not AI stealing your job. The issue is someone who knows AI will steal your job.
Absolutely.
And I'm doing that everywhere, right? I mean, I have a friend of mine he was a former employee of mine who's an illustrator. He was a Disney artist, right? And a year ago, I came to him and I said, look, I can help you out with AI if you want to learn this. He said, no, I do all my own stuff. He came back to me like 2 weeks ago and he's like, please, please, please teach me this, because I'm losing all my work to not only to other people, but to literally the company itself. Like, they're like, I don't need you anymore because I can just do it in AI. So the company's taking the work away from him, let alone another person who's using AI. Yeah. So I began to teach him how to do that, and I said, look, you don't have to use it for everything. I said, just do your initial sketches in AI.
Yes.
And then you love art, so just do the rest of your art yourself. But find the places where you can automate. And I think that's going to be the key, is that Terry said this. We'll brag on Terry for a second. Terry was basically talking about, what was the word he used? It was basically like empathetic use of AI.
Yes.
And the whole idea, and I can't remember what word he used, but the whole idea is use AI for the things that aren't human to make the things that are human more effective and spend more time on them. So, for example, if I'm creating a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to use Gamma to create that presentation, but I'm going to be thinking about, as I'm using that, I'm going to take that time that I spent using AI and I'm going to devote that to how can I tell the most appropriate story? How can I connect with the people in the audience? How can I think this out in a deeper way so that the human side of this that can't be produced by AI is done? The other thing, and I wrote this on Medium, I wrote an article called Surfing the New Tsunami. And that was on basically AI. It was in the first 4 months of AI. And I said, I'm going to learn AI so well that I know its weak spots so that I can create more human content so that I can produce what AI cannot. And I think that's, what AI is going to do, it's going to eliminate mediocrity. It's going to eliminate laziness. And it's going to force people to stay in the bitter camp or the joy camp. I also have, when we talked about getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I've got the biggest AI radio station out there. It's called Flare AI Radio. Okay. And so if you want to go to Flare-AI Radio, you can take a look at it. But basically, I have people from around the world submitting. Now we have about 10 and a half hours worth of songs. And I have 2 blind, I don't want to call them composers, we'll just call them creators, that are now writing songs that they could never write before. And they're producing, all of this amazing content on the app. And so you'll see articles there. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see music videos.
Genius. And the funny part around this, well, I don't know what the logistics are in here, but right, lots of the AI music produced by Suno is royalty free, right?
Absolutely. It's all royalty free if you have a paid subscription.
That's right.
So here's how I did it. This hopefully will help your listeners, is that this was my progress. I was a songwriter from 25 years ago, wrote songs in Nashville.
Oh,
shelved
I didn't know that.
Shelved it after a while.
Okay.
When I found Suno, and it was because of a Substack article that someone had written, I jumped on Suno. I took one of my old songs, which was called "On the Drive Home," and I put it into the platform, and I was like, "Oh, this is unbelievable." Loved it. Said, "Okay, that's not enough." So I said, "Let's create." So I took all my rest of my songs, and then I started creating songs, with my own lyrics in AI. Then I said, "Well, that's not enough. So let's create a AI." Kind of like, I'm trying to remember what the name of the company, I can't remember the name of it is, but basically where instead of just having, some cheesy song for your birthday, we produce a great song using AI. And so that was called Flare Songscapes, which never took off, but it was still something that I did. I put myself out there to do it. And then I said, well, that's not enough. Let's create a radio station, which did take off. I had 30,000 views the first month of the radio station. Wow. We were just off to the races. And so we're very well respected in the songwriting circles, and we've even had contests where, ironically, the handwritten song or the human written song was the one that won out of all of the, basically we had 4 different categories: rock, pop, human, and country. And the human song won the whole thing. But we're out there supporting these AI writers. We're on Facebook all the time talking to them, and we're producing some great stuff.
Genius.
And now I created using AI, I created an app, which is a meditation app called Live, which is, I'm name dropping a lot here, aren't I? The Live app, which is just, I think it's belive.app, or b-live, but I think it's just Belive, BELIVE.app.
It may not be this one.
No, so it's b-live.app.
.app. Okay, well, I'll check it out.
Okay.
And
anyway,
yeah.
so basically I created a whole new music genre that I call euphorics.
Yeah.
Which is this combination of house, dance, tribal, beat, and world.
Very cool.
And we produce that as as that. So my whole point to all that is never let yourself settle on one thing. Always be innovating, always be practicing. And it goes down to really what happens when it comes to even working out. Our bodies want to stay in a state of homeostasis.
Yep.
They want to be freaking relaxed.
Yep.
But if you push your body to its next state, it goes to that state of homeostasis. And it likes that state, right? It doesn't go back to the state it was in before. It goes back to the next state up. So recognizing that in our own bodies and recognizing that in our own work, always be perturbing yourself.
Genius. So many great things inside of here. And we're going to close up with this part of the interview. While I've been talking to you, I've been writing questions, right, David? And so today, this is the speed portion of the interview. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to answer it as fast as possible. And I am going to give you a GIF reaction of some random shape or form. Okay? Okay, here we go. First question. Best flow moment for you?
Every day.
Oh, well, there you go. Cheers. Best street in Arizona?
Dobson, because it's named after a good friend of mine.
Well, I heard you say dolphin, but I think you said
Dobson.
Yeah. Best rule you shattered?
Status quo. Breaking the status quo.
There you go. There's your mic drop for that moment. Favorite product packaging that is not yours?
Ooh, good question. I like Apple. We talked about Apple, so we'll go with that one.
Best positioning of a product or person or situation?
The original State Farm. The first Jake.
Oh, Jake.
Yeah.
What did you love about Jake?
Nothing wrong with the second Jake, but that was some of the best. I told my wife a couple days ago, I said, I'm sorry if I stopped the speed round, but that there's only been 5 times in my entire life where a commercial has got me to buy the product. None of them have been from a celebrity or an endorsed product or anything like that. It's just, how do you communicate that story in such a powerful way that it goes, I have to have that. And it's only been 5 times in my whole life. So break the status quo.
And you're saying Jake is one of the 5?
Jake was so brilliant because you remember it. I actually talked about it in one of my talks that no one doesn't. In fact, actually, I had to just say Jake before I remembered it was State Farm.
That's how you know the branding's good. Best AI prompt tip that most people don't know?
Use ChatGPT for all your prompts.
Yeah. Oh, wait. There we go. How about that one?
I like it. Little Ninja Turtles action there.
What is something non-work that is fun for you?
Oh, man. Everything I do. In fact, actually, I joked around that I have to work more in the after hours because I play all day. So I have to be a little more focused and working for my family and working for the things that are important to them versus the play that I get to do all day. I'm blessed to do that.
All right. Best example of compounding excellence?
Anything that you take the time to the pre-planning stage, right? So if you basically focus on pre-planning anything you do, throw out every scenario that you could have a problem with, that's going to be, everything will work out from there.
Just like this, right?
Just like that, yeah.
The last question is an easy one, David. If you could get people to magically remember one thing from this interview, what's that one thing?
That's not an easy one. That's a complex, deeper one. Anything from this interview is just live an inspired life. I think, and ultimately, the most inspiration you're going to get is about learning from others, right? It's not about what you do. It's about, because that's one person, right? And many of us can barely boil water. But when we get around other people and we live that inspired, empathetic, holistic life, it's fascinating. It's amazing.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. I can't wait to have another dinner with you.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the game.
Oh, I will. I will report back to you on that.
All
Thanks,
right, my
David.
daughter will be thrilled.
Cheers.
All
All
right.
right, we've been talking with David. David Litwin, holy cow. You know, his best part, I live in flow state all day. Are you living in a flow state all day? You should think about that. And more importantly, maybe you should try and figure out how to do that. Well, I may not get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I do strive to think about being in flow state all day long. People ask, why do I love producing? And that's probably one of them. I mean, producing makes me get into a flow state, and because you got to be hyper aware as well as fully connected while you do that. So speaking of which, if you are, again, watching on social media, subscribe, share, like, and comment. If you want all the episodes with people like David Litwin and others, geez, we're almost past 200 episodes. Go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online. A new episode drops every week. You want to learn how to be more engaging, like how to use people's names like David inside of there, and lots of other small but tangible techniques that will make you feel more connected to other people. Come to the Engaging Conference, October 28th through the 30th, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON. There is a free ticket, and there is even a paid amazing VIP ticket if you want access to 15 of the top speakers in the world. And if you want to be like David, hey, go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you could be the next person here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. I'm going to go in the flow state right now.
Always start people and keep